Hello guys and welcome to another Sonic tutorial. Today I'm going to start a new series of tutorials focused on object-oriented programming, and we're going to be using the ABAP language for all those tutorials. And the idea of this series is to explain what is a class, what is an object, what is an instance, right? What is a reference variable, and what is polymorphism? How does objects work in runtime, in memory, stack, heap, all those basic concepts one must know in order to make good in order to make good programs using objects. Okay, so in this first example, we're going to be creating a simple class, and we're going to be instantiating this class a couple of times and understanding how this class behaves in memory, right? So the first thing you want to do before writing code, if you're programming using object-oriented concepts, the first thing you want to do is you want to create an UML, which is the class diagram, right? So I'm going to open my tool here called Glyphy, which I use for drawing my class diagrams. And we're going to create a class called Pokemon. Yeah, that's it. Right. And first of all, we must understand what a class is. A class is a blueprint for creating objects in the real world. Okay? So let's say we have, like, I'm going to use the example from Oracle. Right, they say we have in real world we have several bicycles, but not every bicycle, but lots of bicycles. They have the same components. They were built using the same technique. They have all the same actions, all the same functionalities, and we say these bicycles are instance of the blueprint called bicycle. So we have a class called bicycle, which is the blueprint for creating bicycles. And every time we create an actual bicycle, we are creating an instance of that bicycle, right? In this example, I'm going to be using Pokemons, which, in my point of view, is great for learning object-oriented programming. So every class has a name, right? Attributes and methods. Basically, that's the idea of a class. This is the blueprint of Pokemon we're creating. So attributes are the characteristics of the class, and methods are the actions. Okay. Okay. So you can think as attributes as adjectives, and methods as verbs, actions. So let's think about Pokemons. What are the main characteristics of Pokemon? What are their attributes? So we're going to say every Pokemon has a name, right? And health. And level, let's say level. Okay. Oops. And every Pokemon has an attack method, okay? Attack. And as a parameter, we're going to be receiving another Pokemon, because if we attack something. So what am I attacking? I am attacking another Pokemon. So this is the parameter for the verb attack, right? For the action, for the method attack. Great. We have created our first class called Pokemon with its attributes and its methods. Now, there is another method which is standard for basically every class you're going to create in any programming language, which is called the constructor. The constructor method. And the constructor method is the first method, well, sometimes not the first, but in this basic example, the constructor method is the first method which is called when you create a Pokemon. So every time you create an instance of Pokemon, the constructor is going to be called. And in my example, and sometimes in some real scenarios, you usually pass as arguments of the constructors all the basic attributes the Pokemon should have. So what do I need to create a Pokemon? I need a name, I need health, and I need its level, which are the attributes of Pokemon. And so in order to create a Pokemon, I must pass name, health, and level as parameters of constructor. Okay, so we have created our first basic class called Pokemon. Now we're gonna go back to the ABAP program, and we're gonna create this class. When we are creating classes in the ABAP language, the syntax is basically divided in two parts. The first part is the class definition, and the class definition is basically the class diagrams, is where you declare the name of the class, you declare its attributes, you declare its methods, and the implementation part is the part where you actually write the code for your methods. Okay, so we're going to be defining the class Pokemon. We have LCL class, LCL Pokemon. LCL stands for local class Pokemon definition. All right. And inside every class definition, we have three main sections, which are public section, protected section, and private section. For now, the only thing that makes sense for now is the public section and the private section. Protected section is used when it's going to be used furthermore in the next tutorials when we're going to be talking about polymorphism. But right now, what matters for us is public and private. So let's go over this basic concept. What is the public section of a class? So the public section of a class is the section where all public data and public methods are defined. So let's say I am outside the class. Everything outside the class can see all the public methods and all the public attributes. The private section, by the other hand, is something that only the Pokemon can see, right? So every internal method and internal attribute that only the Pokemon must have access to, this is the private section. Okay, we usually create our attributes in the private section. Why? Because we don't want anyone, spying on our attributes without our permission, right? So I'm gonna create the name. We have our Pokemon name, and what else? Health and level. Okay. So declaring variables inside a class is the way you create attribute for that class. So this is pretty simple. You're gonna understand it very well. So okay, we have created our attributes. Now we need to create our methods. Our methods are going to be public because we want people outside the Pokemon class. They must have access to it. So we're going to be defining the methods constructor and the method attack. Right? We don't actually write any code right here. This is just a definition, and the constructor method has three parameters. Okay, name, health, and level. So we must declare this in the code. By importing we mean coming from outside of the class to the inside of the method. Okay, so we are importing name, type string, health, and level. And the attack method is receiving the Pokemon. So Pokemon type have to LCL Pokemon. Now this is something very interesting. What is the type ref2? This is something we are going to be discussing later in this same tutorial, right? Okay, so we have defined our class. Now we need to implement these two methods of our class. Okay, so we're gonna write here the class implementation class LCL Pokemon. implementation. Inside our class, we're going to have the method constructor and the attack method. Okay, great. Now, if you check for syntax issues, you're going to see that your program is syntactically correct. So all you need to do now is implement the code for these two methods. And what a constructor is going to do is basically we're gonna initialize all these three variables right here. So I'm telling you that me name, and what does me means? Sorry. I'm telling you that I'm using the attribute, my attribute called name. In Java, this is achieved using the word this. In ABAP, we use me for that purpose. So name is the name of the parameter you're passing, right? Health and level as well. So health level equals level. And we are not obligated to use the me word, but since both the attribute's name and the parameter's name, they all have the same name, the compiler would not allow me to do a statement like this one. I'm going to try to check the syntax. See, the field name cannot be changed because, well, the method thinks the name is actually the parameter and not the attribute. So to make sure you're talking about the attribute, we use the me keyword, okay? And everything is good. Now the attack methods we're not going to be implementing right now, but for now let's just use the constructor message for this first tutorial. So right, we have created our first local class. Now this is the blueprint for creating Pokemons. Now we need to actually create a Pokemon, right? So here at the initialization of my program, first we need to declare all the static variables, our reference variables to create Pokemon. So we're going to have here, let's say, global objects underscore Pikachu. Type reference of LCL Pokemon. Okay, and good. So now we're going to be talking about memory, how memory handles classes and reference variables. We're gonna go back to our Glyph diagram, and here you can see we have two areas of memory. We have the stack area and the heap area. The stack area is the static, where all static variables are held inside, are kept inside. So every time you declare a variable using the data statement, right, you are creating the compiler automatically knows that you are going to need those variables, so it's going to allocate memory for it. And so let's say here we have the variable called go Pikachu, right? So in the stack section of the memory, you're going to have a little square, right, a little area of memory called go underscore Pikachu, and inside this variable, now here's the trick. Inside this variable, you might think that you're gonna have all the attributes from your class. So you might be thinking, oh, inside my Pikachu I have a name and I have a health and a level. That's what you're gonna think at first, but no. If you go back to your program, you can see this is not a type Pokemon. This is a type reference to Pokemon. So if we are talking about reference, we are talking about pointers, which I'm not going to be using that word again, but this is a reference variable. This is not an actual Pokemon. This variable points to a Pokemon. So what happens if I try to call the attack method of I'm gonna be attacking myself in this example. Yeah, I'm stupid. If we check the syntax, our program is syntactically correct, but let's see what happens when I run this program. So I have created my variable Pikachu, and I'm calling its method attack, and I'm going to run the program. Oh, red screen of that. So we have a dump right here, an exception. Let's read the exception carefully. We have object reference not assigned. Oh, now everything is starting to make sense. Good. Let's go back to your code. And what happened is inside your stack variable, you don't have the attributes of your class. You have the reference for the instance of your class, right? So inside the Go Pikachu, you're gonna have an address, a memory address. Let's say #FF. Okay. And well, since we have just declared your variable, this variable points to nothing, right? So this variable is making reference to nothing. So we are trying to call a method where we're trying to access an attribute of nothing. And that's what that exception was about, missing reference for objects. So the first thing we need to do, we need to build, we need to construct, we need to call the constructor of the Pokemon. We need to create the object Pokemon. For that, we're going to use the command create object Pikachu. And as I said, since every time you create the object, we're automatically calling the constructor, we must pass the parameters. So this one is the Pikachu, health 100, level 1. Right? So I'm just going to write attacking. Okay, just for example purposes. Now I'm going to activate my program. And I'm going to execute my program, and let's see what happens. Oh, my Pokemon is attacking. Now we're talking. So let's see what happened at the moment I instantiated or created my object Pikachu. So let's go back to the memory. Okay, so every time you create an object, what happens is you're gonna be creating. Oh, let me see. I'm gonna use that. Okay, so you're gonna be creating. The program is gonna create an instance of that Pokemon in the heap area of memory, which is dynamic, and inside this little circle right here, we're going to have all the attributes and methods of that class. So we're going to have health equals Pokemon, and we're going to have not health, sorry, name, and health equals 100, and so what else? Level equal 1. Great. Now this is an instance of a Pokemon. Okay, but we don't directly have access to this because this is in the heap action. This is in the heap section of the memory. So this has an address. If this little guy right here is inside the memory, it means it has an address. So let's say the address for this Pokemon is FF, right? That's hexadecimal. Okay. So every time you create the object, in runtime, what actually happened was an instance of your Pokemon was created in the heap section of memory, and the address of that section, of that variable, of that instance was assigned to your reference variable. So now your Pikachu variable is making reference to this instance in the heap section. Look how beautiful this is, isn't it? Oh, that's beautiful. See, so that's why we call this variable a reference variable, because it doesn't actually have the content. It just points to another area of memory, right? So this is what happened when we created the Pikachu uh, when we created the object Pikachu, which of type have to Pokemon. And let's say this variable right here doesn't have a name. So okay, great. We're gonna be talking about garbage collection right now. Okay, so I have created my Pokemon, I have attacked my Pokemon, and now I'm gonna clear. Let's say I'm gonna clear my Pokemon. Clear, go Pikachu. Let's see what happens. I'm gonna try to attack again after I've cleared my Pokemon, my reference variable. Okay, and let's see what happens. Any second. Okay. So again, object reference not assigned. So let's see what happens step by step. Let's see what happens. Great. Let's set a breakpoint right here. Let's run our program. So I'm not. Okay. Let's go. So every time you create the object, the constructor is going to be called, right? So it's going to run all our instructions. And if you go back to your Pikachu variable, you can see this is a reference variable. It doesn't have its content. This is pointing. What happened here was this. So we created the object in the heap section of the memory, and we took its address and we assigned that address to our reference variable called Pikachu. And now, from now on, our static variable called Pikachu is pointing to an instance of a Pokemon. Right? That is great. So if I call the attack method of Pikachu, what is gonna happen is the program is going to so Pikachu is pointing to this area of the heap memory. Okay, let's call the attack method from this guy. Oh, it's gonna write the text, and now I'm gonna clear my Pikachu, my reference. I'm gonna clear the reference. Let's run F5. You can see here in the debug that our reference variable is initial. It's pointing to nothing, right? Initial. And what we just did was we actually just cleared this reference. That's what happened. That's it. And at the time when we cleared the reference, this link between the static area of memory and the dynamic area of memory, or this link between the stack and the heap, is gonna die. And at this moment, in runtime, the program is gonna see, oh, we have something in the heap area of memory that has no reference to. So nothing. I don't have any variable in the stack section of memory that is pointing to this object. So this object is lost. Well, in fact, it still exists, okay, but there is no reference for me. I'm a lonely Pokemon. I have no master. That's quite sad. And now the garbage collectors do its job. So what the garbage collector does is basically, so we have we have this Pokemon with no master. We have this Pokemon with no reference. Kill this guy, bitch. You are of no use for us anymore. So that's the job of the garbage collector. When you cleared your variable, you didn't instantly kill your instance. All you did was clear your reference, and the garbage collector killed your instance. That's what happened. And again, you try to call the attack method of Pikachu, but Pikachu is not pointing to any instance in the heap memory. And well, you got the idea. Exceptions. Don't forget to create the object before using any kind of method or attribute, unless it's static, but that's another tutorial. So I hope that in this tutorial we were able to understand the basic of what a class is, what an instance is, and how what is a reference variable and how it works in the stack and heap section of the memory. Okay, so I hope you like it, and in the next tutorial we're going to be discussing more advanced concepts about object-oriented programming. And again, thanks for watching, and goodbye.